Good afternoon to all, and thank you for joining us at one of the last sessions at the Macedonia2025 Summit, which is called Required Role of Women as Leaders for a Sustainable Future. We've had two excellent summit days discussing many globally important topics and focusing mostly on technology and innovation for a sustainable future. However, one cannot discuss about the world's future without touching upon the topic of gender equality and women's empowerment, which is widely recognized nowadays as a means for increased and sustainable growth. Gender equality being first and foremost a matter of equal rights and worth of all people, it's also seen as a means for sustainable and increased economic growth. It is ethically right as much as it's economically smart, and therefore is the right way for us to go. To this end, I'd like to extend my congratulations and compliments to the Managing Board of Macedonia2025 for hosting this important topic and thereby showing their awareness of the importance of the topic, as also Macedonia's commitment to the global agenda, not least in the areas of gender equality and women's empowerment. The topic has never been recognized as more important and has never been gathering more international attention and recognition and dedication from world leaders. I'll begin by mentioning Sweden, where I'm honored to serve as ambassador and to represent Macedonia since 2014. Sweden is gathering increased international attention and recognition lately, not least because it's led by a first feminist government in the world. It is widely commended for the fully gender-balanced government and for the share of women in parliament at a ratio which is twice higher than the global average of 22%. The country is strongly committed and dedicated to allowing equal rights to all girls and women, also to allow equal access to resources, as also to ensure equal representation at highest possible levels in political and in business life. Many more governments worldwide have followed the same direction. For example, when asked about the reasons for naming a gender-balanced cabinet after the elections of last year in Canada, the Prime Minister Trudeau simply replied, because it's 2015, instantly making the world falling in love with him. The First Lady of United States, Michelle Obama, has recently joined other successful women on a mission around the globe to educate young girls, strongly believing that educating girls does not only transform their lives, but it also transforms nations. The United Nations are also fully dedicated to increasing the awareness of the importance of gender equality for achieving the Global Agenda 2030. And the Executive Director of UN Women, a body within the United Nations, has recently stated that failure to respect, empower and support girls could mean that no country could ever reach their potential. I'm proud to say that the Macedonian Embassy in Stockholm was the only embassy in Sweden and also the only Macedonian embassy in the world which has participated and supported the UN Women He for She campaign, which engages men to advocate for gender equality worldwide. All of this speaks about the accelerated efforts of national governments as also of international organizations in pursuing with the equality issue. However, it's still with an uneven pace, and the topic remains as one of the few areas in a society with a great possibility for development. Therefore, all of us, and not least women, have the responsibility of being agents of change. With these words, I'm delighted to introduce to the audience three distinguished panelists, each one in their own particular way representing an agent for change. Professor Slavica Waite is the CEO of PEC International, UK, an energy consultancy that specializes in the oil and gas industry, concentrating mainly on high-value capital investment projects. Professor Waite is at the same time founder and trustee of the foundation Kiril Trajkovski. She holds a master's degree in international healthcare management, economics and policy from Bocconi University in Milano, Italy. She has managed hospital groups in Germany, Turkey, and Macedonia, and has served as an advisor to the Ministry of Health of the Republic of Macedonia, and is currently a board member of Acibadem Sistina Hospital, Macedonia, and Acibadem City Clinic Group, Bulgaria. I'd like to mention, prior to giving the words to our speakers, that none of us is an expert in gender equality topic per se. However, the long years of experience in the corporate sector and for me in diplomacy actually can help shed some light over the common issues and challenges that women face at the workplace. And by doing that, can also act in support of the efforts that need to be undertaken in the future to ensure gender equality. Despite operating in male-dominated businesses, these women have proven their leadership in attaining high positions in the respective industries. Slavica, could you please tell us whether it was easy or rather hard at the beginning, being a woman at the head of the work table? I guess there were some, if not many men, thinking that they should be in your position or that you don't belong there. What was your response to that? And do you think that being a woman has had some advantages?
First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me to take part in your panel. I'm normally I'm sitting on the panels where I have to talk about more boring subjects, talking about pipelines and refineries, but this time I think I'm participating in very topical subject, which is very much a subject that the world is talking about, especially in my adopted country, in the United Kingdom. As I said, I'm nearly most of my life, if not the whole working life, I'm involved in oil and gas industry. I'm involved in capital investments, and that put me in a group of people that I'm dealing with, which are men's world. When I started in my mid-20s, only less than 5% of the women from the supplier side, which is the Western world, was involved in oil and gas. And they were mainly involved in the administrative part of the field. Comparing with my clients, and my clients were mainly Eastern European countries, including former Yugoslavia, I had to deal with much higher number of women, and that was something between 35 and 40%. So we have this balanced ratio. I had no problem to work with the men on one side, neither with the women on the other side. But I learned very quickly that in order to be successful in the men's world, you have to be respected. You have to be respected with your ability, your performances, and therefore I thought that the best thing is if I can prepare for every meeting that I had. I was attending meetings where there were 8, 10, 12 men at the meeting. I was the only woman when I was attending those meetings. Most of the people believe that I'm either the secretary there, I have to take minutes of the meeting, or in the best part, I'm interpreter. But very quickly after that, they realized that I'm not only there to discuss a large contract, but I'm also in a senior position. So that was my experience, original, but a preliminary experience. Now it's gone such a long time that I feel very comfortable, very confident. I know how the people are working, but I must say something, that there are great changes, even in the last 20 years, even in my field, from 5 or less than 5% of women being in oil and gas industry in the Western world. When I'm saying Western world is United States, UK, France, Germany. I think that number now approaching something like 15%. While the Eastern Europe, the number remained the same, maybe 30, 35%. So this is the answer about my preliminary experience. But I never find difficulties working in the field, neither working with the men. I think one has to feel confident to understand the subject, and you have to know how to prepare for your meetings.
Thank you, Slavica. And there's still so much judgment of women in the business world. Women are in general more often named and shamed rather than being named and praised. What is your experience? Do you find in general efforts required from women to advance in their career being generally double that required from men? And how do you respond in practice, in everyday life, to such expectations?
Thank you. Great question. So actually, to answer that question, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. And I'm going to backtrack to my formidable years. And for the ones who don't recognize the word, formidable means your foundation years. That's the years of adolescence, teenage years. And I have been very fortunate to spend those years in Macedonia. And in a very, very special school. All Korčagna alumni, raise your hand. My husband as well, you should raise your hand. And what I learned in Korčagin, which is an amazing school, by the way, and still an amazing school, public school, maybe we didn't have the fanciest chairs, the fanciest computers, but what we learned is, and what I specifically learned, that girls not only can be tete-a-tete with the boys, but they actually were better in math, and they worked harder. So that actually stayed with me for the rest of my career, because it taught me 3 characteristics that are key for success, no matter in what career you choose. I went to Korčagin, a number of my friends, like the ones that were raising hands, went in engineering, number of in medicine, number in diplomacy, business, like myself, but there are 3 factors for success. It's not secret, but maybe, I'm going to share a very, very important, maybe secret to some of you. It's competence, hard work, and integrity. When you have those 3 characteristics, you get a seat on the table, and that's basically it. However, I recognize I've been working on Wall Street in New York in the finance industry for 16 years now, and unfortunately, it's largely male-dominated industry. So, yes, do people have preconceived notions about a young lady sitting across the table, very similar to some of the experiences that were mentioned earlier. But how do you fight with those? Do you really fight? No. You show the 3 characteristics: competency, hard work, integrity. But there's another secret. There is actually something very special about us women in the audience, and that is emotional intelligence. So EQ, as it's called in the Western world, it's actually a very, very hot topic these days. It's determined by social scientists that emotional intelligence is a key factor for strong leaders. So let me tell you, maybe you're not familiar with the word emotional intelligence. It's really very simple. It's about recognizing emotions, recognizing behaviors. If one cannot recognize behaviors, you cannot manage behaviors. So ultimately, I've been in situations where the guy next door to me, in the next office, has the competence, has the hard work, and has an integrity. But when I also have a healthy dose of emotional intelligence, who has gotten the management job? It's me. So I think that we should embrace it. We should embrace that we are women. Don't forget about the 3 key aspects. They're always going to be the thing that gets you seated on the table, but don't forget that we are special too.
Thank you. And Jana, you're a young woman holding 2 very high managerial positions at Acibadem. One influential aspect of it is that you can be perceived as a female leader, showing a young generations of girls what is possible. Do you sometimes encounter a question of the type, you mean a girl can be president of the managing board? And what is your everyday approach to inspire other women and girls in Macedonia to take similar roles?
Aleksandra, as you mentioned, I work in healthcare, and we take care of people's lives and people's health. So the challenge and the responsibility I have in those 2 positions is huge, and independent whether a woman or a man is in that position. So when I was put in those positions, my competence as a woman was never being questioned. But I want to talk about something else in that process, another aspect of it. These positions require leadership and managerial skills which make you make the proper decisions and make you work on a system which should produce the best and optimal results. So when you have such a demanding position, you want to have a good leader, good manager there. And of course, I want to be one of them. And I do my best to do that. And how do we envision today's great leader or great manager? It's someone who is decisive. It's someone who is strong. It's someone who can stand for his ideal. And it's someone who is who makes those decisions actually and goes for them. So when I try to do that, do you know what happens? They tell me I'm sharp. And I cut things. And they tell me I'm pushy sometimes, and I should lower my expectations and the pressure I put on people. And yeah, even though I exert the characteristics that we want in an ideal leader, just because I'm a woman, that's how I feel it, I am being labeled as pushy or sharp. When a woman is decisive, then she's labeled as pushy. But when a man is dedicated, we always consider him dedicated. When it's a woman, then she might be even selfish. So how I see it, in what happens in my experience, is that nobody questions my competence and my results. But my likability goes down. And even my own mother, who has been a great support for me and who has inspired me throughout these years to reach for the top, she tells me people will not like you if you keep acting like this. If you keep doing this, people don't like you. Exactly. And research has proved that as well. So preparing for this conference, I came across a Harvard Business School research recent, which actually proves that success and likability are negatively correlated for women, whereas competence and likability go hand in hand for men. And I think that this is very subtle, but very dangerous bias. And this is a stereotype that holds women back from leadership positions. Because naturally, all of us want to be liked. And I believe that we need to talk more openly and honestly about this issue. And we need to admit that it's hard to get women on stage because of these stereotypes. And I want to thank Macedonia2025 for adding this session to this year's conference, because it will open a new page when talking about these issues in Macedonia. And I want to add another thing about this, is that I believe that, for all the women here, I believe that managing and trying to manage this competence, likability trade-off, and the time and energy you would spend on it, because I've done it, it's actually not worth it. It's eventually self-defeating. So what I believe we should do is we should teach women and girls from early age to know how valuable they are, and we should tell them constantly that they deserve to be successful. And as Anna said, it's hard work, it's commitment and persistence that brings you to the top. And once you reach there, it's absolutely okay to own your own success. And you should definitely disregard whoever doesn't like it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jana, for speaking openly about your experience. Obviously, when men are ambitious and capable, they are perceived as leaders. Where women are ambitious and capable, they're perceived as bitches. And yes, that's how it is in the business world. Still. So recently, the Swedish Minister for EU and Trade Affairs, Ann Linde, noted that the GDP across the EU bloc could rise for additional 12% if only if women are included in the labor market on equal terms as men. The recent McKinsey Global Institute study also points out that bridging the UK gender gap in work could add almost $200 billion to the British economy by 2025, with about 840,000 more women in work. However, measures such as sufficient maternity leave used both by the parents, and I underline both parents, new family roles in terms of equalized family relations by a more balanced care of the children and of elderly, as well as flexible work arrangements may prove essential to this end. Anna, possibility to achieve work-to-family balance seems crucial for women to enter the labor market and to advance in their career. Ambitious women want to have it all, to hold high managerial positions, at the same time being loving and caring partners and mothers. What is your personal advice for overcoming this inevitable dilemma? What was your personal recipe for success?
This is actually a topic that's probably the topic that I'm most passionate about. I'm a mother of 2 young girls, and I wanted to, model myself as a role model for my daughters. And it's very, very unfortunate that I live in the United States, but paid maternity leave in the United States and guaranteed job is actually an anomaly rather than a rule. So everybody here, and ladies in Macedonia and everybody in Europe, should feel very, very grateful that this is actually a norm in the European, particularly in the EU zones. In most of the world, that's actually luxury. And even in a very wealthiest, most powerful country in the world, like the United States, that is an anomaly. A typical maternity leave in the United States is 10 days, 10 work days, which is 2 weeks, by the way. Let me remind you, everybody here who is a parent, who has bared a child, to understand how does one feel to leave a 2-week-old baby. So it's really 2 weeks, and typically not paid, and typically would be with no job guarantee. So only the top corporations in the United States actually offer longer maternity leave. And let me define for you what's longer. 2.5 months. 2.5 months. It's a shameful thing, absolutely. So imagine me, a mother, 2 babies, like any mom out there in the audience or dad, and I have to go back, 2.5 months. How have I done it? Well, let me first position myself for, I'm a hard worker. I identify myself with my contributions to society outside of being a mother and a wife. So work is very important to me. It's something that I really care about. It makes me a healthier human being. But also, motherhood, it's even more important. So I've been very fortunate that I've been able to afford very good care, but also have very, very strong support from my family. So my mother is here, and my mother-in-law as well. And both have been, great, great help to, and probably great contributors to my success indirectly, because they've been there for my formative years of my young babies. Hence, why I've been able to go back to work with a peaceful mind and then dedicate myself to whatever I had to dedicate professionally. So what I wanted to teach you is that really the US world and the capitalist world is a relatively cruel world from that perspective. So ultimately, I think societies can do more. And I think they're doing some. From my personal experience today, as I've been in senior management roles for some time, how I determine which is going to be my next employer. Do I look at my salary? Do I look at my bonus stock plan, etc.? Sure, absolutely. We're in the world of business. Everybody should look at it. But what I pay more attention is the ability for the corporation to give me flexible options. And for me personally, I work 4 days of the week in my New York office and 1 day a week at my home office. I have ability to, whenever I have a parent-teacher conference, doctor's appointment for my kids, to check out. Does that interfere with my career? No. I think corporations have matured, particularly in the United States, that in order to retain top talent, one has to provide that kind of flexibility, and I've embraced it, and we should do more about that.
Thank you, Jana. Many women worldwide are still trapped in low-paid, part-time jobs in which their skills cannot be fully utilized. And women are still paid less than men for the same position. Accepting the fact that globally and on average, women earn about 20% less than men, many world leaders have vowed to end the gender pay inequality in less than a generation. Slavica, would you say that gender pay equality is high on the agenda of the current British government? And do you agree that it has never been a better time as a woman to ask for a raise than nowadays?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My answer will be yes, immediately. The British government in the last 10 years is doing a lot to improve the equality in the wage sector, in the social packages that they're offering to the women, and I think they're progressing. In the past, you were not allowed to know what a woman director is earning. Now, the transparency must be there. Everyone, if they want to know what are the wages, what is the level of the wages, is available public knowledge. The difference until very recently between equal posts of women and men was about 30%. The woman was earning up to 30% less for the same type of job that they were doing as the men. That is now rapidly disappearing. It's still in certain sectors, but I think the improvement is there. As I said, the government is working very hard, and I understand that there are more than 20% top paid women on the FTSE 250 directors represented by women now. So we are getting very, very fast. What we used to have in the Eastern world, in the socialist countries, a country like United Kingdom is with great speed trying to achieve. So I'm very pleased to say that the United Kingdom is doing quite a lot. We had one successful prime minister 10 years ago. Now we have a new woman prime minister, and the concentration is there to provide as good packages as possible and incorporating the women not only in their high positions, but also to incorporate the women by giving them a social package where there can be mothers, there can be wives, and there can be managers.
Thank you, Slavica. Japan has recently adopted a very holistic strategy on getting more women into the workforce to address the negative demographics and the potential shortfall in skills. Jana, do you believe that companies in Macedonia should hire more women as to prevent potential talent loss and loss in productivity? And which measures do you think should be undertaken in Macedonia as to motivate or to stimulate companies to hire more women on the highest managerial positions?
You know, Aleksandra, I think that companies in Macedonia do hire women already, and they do not have a prejudice in hiring women. It is the willingness of the companies to hire more and more women is not a problem here. It is the willingness of the society to allow women to work and to create appropriate conditions for women to develop and to be successful. That's an issue here. And this is an issue where mere legislation is not going to help. There are two aspects to it. One, which is the social and ethnical background we have to take in consideration. And we need to admit that in Macedonia, there are still communities where women are not allowed to work for customs and reasons related to culture. And this has an economic impact on the country because businesses cannot grow well there, and because even foreign investors are diverted from those areas because they simply cannot find the appropriate workforce. The other aspect, which is more important than this one, is the other part of the women, the one who are allowed to work and who can easily enter the workforce, like many of us here. And if we want to have these women into the workforce and keep them there, it's really nice to talk about it, but we really need to create a structure and a context where these women would have the tools to succeed and to keep balance with another more personal dimension in their lives, and that's the role of a mother or a wife. And many of you here are mothers and wives, and you know that we still lack those tools in this country. So if we want them more, if we want more women leaders, then we need to have a better organization of all support services in that context, meaning we need to have better kindergartens, flexible working hours, we need to have safe schools, we need to have access to different resources to help the women and the children develop. Why is this important? It's because by taking more women in the workforce, we want to have a better companies and better society, and not a society where everybody works and no one has children, or if they have children, then nobody takes care of them, of course.
Thank you, Jana. It's always interesting to discuss women representation at highest levels in Macedonia, and many people believing that there is no discrimination, and yet, this is outdated information, but I don't expect it to change. Out of 15, 16 banks, only one was headed by a woman a few years back. Out of almost the same number of insurance companies, only 2 were headed by women, but it's nice to hear that nobody still believes that there is a discrimination. There is a growing number of women presidents and prime ministers in the world. In the summer of 2014, for example, 16 women ambassadors were serving the UN Security Council, putting women's representation at an unprecedented 40%. Women mayors are leading cities, from Paris, Barcelona, Prague, Warsaw, Budapest, Rome, even Baghdad. A wave of new female mayors is taking office, shaking up old assumptions of what matters to cities. Yet the jobs of women leaders still pose particular challenges because of the stereotype of a good female employee still being a skillful committee worker, not a charismatic boss. Anna, would you say that people still think that leadership equals male characteristics? And is the idea that you have to be a macho type of a person to lead still around? And how do you personally play against this prejudice?
It's very interesting. I didn't know that Jana was actually partly going to answer my question, but I don't think I should be considered myself repetitive. I think it will be a consistent story what she has experienced in her management role and what I have experienced in my management role, albeit 2 different continents, 2 different countries, same issues. And this is the story. So I'll be very anecdotal, I'll be very personal about this story. So when I was promoted into my recent role, it's a senior management role, and I actually manage exclusively a team of men. And actually a team of men that are significantly older than myself. They're roughly the age of my father, or close there. They have lots of gray hair, and it spans from Canada, US, London, etc. So I was given this management role, and I said, Anna, it will be your great talent, you're very important to us, so we'll hire an executive coach. So I got a very, very fancy executive coach, $500 an hour that the company is paying for, to teach me how to be a more effective leader. Great, I'm embracing anything I can learn. Well, us from Korčagin, what did I say earlier? We want to learn, we want to be competent. So I get the coach, the lady flies from LA every 2 weeks to coach me about my executive skills. So as part of that, they did a 360. 360 is an American word about doing very detailed analysis of your skill set. So the 360 comes back, 3 weeks later, 25 people interviewed on my behalf, various junior, senior, etc. And the 360 comes with, Anna is very competent. Anna knows her stuff. Anna is one of the strongest bank analysts we've seen. But Anna is intimidating. I think you mentioned the same thing, Jana. You know? She, sometimes people are scared from her and they're scared to raise their voices. So imagine my surprise. Here am I, cute and blonde, sitting there, and lots of gray-haired men scared from me. And I'm listening, and I'm said, wow, really, I didn't know I'm so scary. And why am I scary? Well, you ask tough questions. I think all leaders and managers need to ask tough questions. Okay, fine. Well, you are very demanding. I was asked and hired into this job because you want top performance from this team. Demanding means asking for good results. You're very results-oriented. I was like, isn't that what I'm paid for? Results? So going back to the story, if there was a guy who's competent, knows his stuff, wants results, and is demanding, what would be that guy called? Anybody in the audience? Awesome, tough, great talent, great management leadership. But somehow, Anna was intimidating. So I listened to that, I smiled, I accepted it, and what did I do? I used what was the other secret I mentioned? EQ, emotional intelligence. So, you flex your styles. Ultimately, what my executive coach said to me, you're awesome, continue what you're doing, flex your style. And flexing your style means be adaptive to various environments, recognize that people have different sensibilities around you, which is a key leadership trait. Don't turn yourself into a guy. That's not the point here. That's not what the company wants from you. Be who you are, and ultimately, don't change yourself. So that's my little personal story on the subject matter.
Thank you, Anna. Slavica, it is believed that women can bring a less combative and more consensual approach to business. Women are said to be better listeners and capable of bringing different sides at the negotiating table without producing a loser. Do you agree that women bring with them a set of perspectives and values different in important ways than those of their male peers, and how it has personally helped you as a woman to bring additional value to the company you work for?
Well, I'm putting the business people in two categories. One, which are doers, and the other one, which are debaters. And I put the women in the category of being doers, and the men, which are debaters. I personally, in my company, when I need to have certain legal matters to be prepared, to be expedited, I always use women. Even our lawyers, our company lawyers, I'm using women. Not because I disapprove with the men, but my personal experience is that I will get better results and more punctuate and more expediting services from the women. If I can generalize something, because living in the territory of the United Kingdom most of my life, United Kingdom is a country which was the strongest when the women were governing the country. If you think in Elizabeth I, 16th century, we have Queen Victoria, which created the biggest empire in the world. You have Queen Elizabeth II with Mrs. Thatcher, when the country was very strong. And now we have new prime minister leader, which I believe is doing under the circumstances quite well. So I also believe that the women have better capacity of listening and evaluating with more patience rather than that is my personal experience. Maybe some of you men will be offended what I'm saying, but that is my personal experience and my personal belief that difficult matters can be resolved with negotiations and those negotiations can be handled with much easier with if the women are involved. That doesn't mean it affects every area. It doesn't mean that it affects every industry, but I'm just talking today from my own personal experience.
There's still prejudice about women in the workplace and doubts about the impact they can have. Women often face subtle discrimination at work, and they're often underestimated. And it's felt that they wouldn't be able to deal with the position, and they don't have enough authority. And they say the true equality between sexes is not having 50% men and 50% women for any role, but when men don't find it threatening or inherently wrong when women actually takes the position. Do you think the world is ready for that? Do you believe that men are prepared to relinquish some of their powers to have more equal balance? And that women are prepared intellectually, psychologically, emotionally to take on that roles?
Well, I think that we have lots of proof in this audience. I think the audience, the stage, that the women are absolutely ready. But it's about choice. I think to a certain degree it's about choice. Sometimes there is a choice about, greater focus in your career. Sometimes there is a greater choice of, through family. And I've done those choices. I've actually had senior management roles that I've stepped down from to focus on my young children when they were babies. And actually, there is a great book that I highly recommend. It's called, for the ladies in the audience, called Ramp On, Ramp Off. Because it's very important to stay in the workforce and understand your limitations. We are not superhuman. We're just women. And we are great, and we are flexible, and we're best at multitasking. And remember what I said earlier, we have amazing emotional intelligence, but it doesn't mean that has to come at an absolute cost to your life. And I think it's about recognition at what point of your life, what's important. We're not saying that absolute equality, I'm not necessarily fighting for absolute equality. What we're fighting for, making sure that woman wants to have a seat on the table, is being recognized on the same criteria as a guy would be recognized for the same seat on the table. But not necessarily that every woman has to be a CEO, because that's not maybe the choice of every woman to be a CEO. And I think those are the things that it's ultimately about the criteria, and it's about how that criteria is being followed.
Girls are equally enrolled in schools, at least in the Western world, the world that we know it. They get same, if not better, grades in school, but yet they still do not have equal opportunities in life. And I'll tell you a personal example of dealing with my elder son, Andrea, who is a teenager. Whenever I push him hard to study more and show better results at school, he simply says, I'm not a girl to be a nerd and to have best grades at school. I mean, get realistic, get real. This is not happening. So, Jana, we tend to believe that there is no gender discrimination in Macedonia simply by holding to the equal gender rights that are guaranteed by law. However, would you say that you have been treated equally and that you have received the same equal opportunities in life as your male peers? And how much this inequality, if present, has discouraged you or has, on the contrary, empowered you to achieve more?
Equal gender rights, which are guaranteed by law, does not mean that they're practiced that way. And I believe that there is huge discrimination in Macedonia still. And that comes in the form of disrespect. I believe that women in this country are not respected. Still, in this country, there are men, actually, who think that it's macho to do anything to a woman and get away with it. And there are men who believe they can say anything they want for a woman, and that's fun. And what is even worse is that there are women who are accustomed of swallowing emotions, being quiet, and accepting this. And that's devastating. That has consequences in every area of society. In the family, at work, in business, in politics, in all life. So, where does this all start? In the family. I strongly believe that men should be taught to respect their mothers, their wives, girlfriends, daughters, and sisters. And only when they are able to do this at the family level, they will be able to respect their women co-workers. And then we will together be able to create safe identity workspace for women, and then empower more women and encourage them to join and go for leadership positions. And we really need to work on developing more respect for women in every sense. But we need to do it together, both men and women. And I have this theory where I say, I judge a man by a woman by his side. The woman he chose tells so much about this man. It's such a subtle indicator of what he values in life and how he chooses things and how he makes decisions. So I believe that the world we live in today is not a world where we should compete, and it's a world of competence between men and women. As opposed to that, I think it's that men and women should respect each other and complement each other, so they can be valued for their unique traits, and that would be real equality. And I have to say that I have been really, really lucky to work in a company where 70% of its managers are women. And that's a setting where women are welcomed, where people advance based on merit and achievement. And in many occasions, women are preferred for many of the positions. So I'm really grateful I had that chance, and I wish we could see more occasions and more companies like that in Macedonia.
Thank you, thank you. And we come to the last subtopic of representation, which is very dear to me. People recognize worldwide that inclusive society means having different perspectives in the decision-making process, so that we come up with policies that are more or less equally applicable to all. Although women are not minority, they are more likely than men to face social exclusion, or disempowerment at certain points of their life. Slavica, do you believe that such experiences, potential experiences, make women more fitting to act as a kind of bridgehead to other underrepresented groups, such as elderly people, children, religious or ethnic minorities? And do you think that by achieving more balanced representation of women in the decision-making processes at highest positions, we can actually ensure a more inclusive decision-making processes?
Yeah. Thank you. I don't think that every post fit every woman. I believe that there are jobs which are not very suitable because of the physical strength. I can't see many women working in the mine industry. Lately, we start having women in other industry which previously we never dreamed that there will be women. We have train drivers, we have taxi drivers, we have pilots, which one is very good. But that is the women which are entering in that industry is because they are like. I can't believe many women going in the mine industry just because they need money. I think it's mainly they must like to work there. On the other side, there is different area which is more suitable for women. I think the welfare for older people, I think the welfare for the children, I think the welfare for people with special need, the welfare for broken families. I think those areas are better understood and are better evaluated by women. It is not, of course, is not with certain exceptions, but the women have natural better instinct and natural understanding for the children, the families, and therefore, I believe that senior positions in a sector of in a social sector a better fit for a woman. So that is my belief, and that is what I can see is happening in the United Kingdom. Even the courts, the lawyers, normally appointing women to deal with divorces, to deal with social care of the children, and therefore I believe that the women should take positions which they feel comfortable, or they can bring more natural expertise.
So many other questions, but we are running out of time. So before giving a few lines of conclusion remarks, I would like to open the podium for the questions from audience.
I think I speak for all of us when I say that we hold nothing but respect for people like you in the podium who are probably not superheroes but superwomen. And I had the opportunity to lead people, international teams with women and men, and I had the opportunity to be led by women and men equally. And the question I would have is, since obviously there are different perceptions when it comes to leaders, if you are being led by a man or a woman, do you then, in a position who are holding different senior management positions, do you have any advice on how men should behave when they are being led by women? Is there anything more welcomed? Is there anything we should specifically take care of? Thank you. In terms of behavior, management behavior.
So your reference really is more to a point that when you are part of a women-led team, how should one, I guess, behave? And my perspective is that it's no different being led by a woman or a guy, and it's about that. Probably it is initial shock of a style, but I think that guys have different styles, and it can certainly be a different style for a manager that's male and two male managers. And it's about being open to learn certain characteristics. And often I learn from the men that work for me. They actually say, "Thank you, Anna, for being patient with me." I mean, they actually say, "Thank you for being patient." And maybe I think that's probably the biggest things I've heard, being supportive and patient. Somehow, those are female characteristics. I'm not sure if the same guy would say, "Thank you for being patient" to a guy manager, but I hear it a lot. And I think that anybody who will have the privilege, I will say, to be part of a women-led team can certainly expect, and don't want to generalize, but certainly there is a characteristic that women are a little bit more patient, they're a little bit more, have an emotional cue, and certainly support and being supportive to their team. So that's something that everybody should look forward to from a manager.
I could add a bit. I think that the true recipe for having a good work relationship between a subordinated man and a woman, which is a boss, is to treat the boss absolutely in equal terms, as if she was a man. That would provide actually a line of trust, a connection based on trust, because it shows on one side that the subordinated person does not have any prejudice or any aspirations towards that position that is currently held by a woman. And on the other hand, it would provide the woman boss working with capable and trustworthy and open-minded colleagues that can be very valuable parts of the team. So I would say that there are no certain tips, although maybe marketing industry is producing thousands of books dealing with this topic, but you should behave standard and as treating the boss as a standard human and expecting absolutely the same privileges and the same responsibilities and empowerments to get from the boss as if she was or he was. The position was occupied by men.
So thank you all for being very inspirational. I have with me my students, half of them are females, and I hope this will really change their view of the world and it will boost their motivation. I have three probably unrelated things to mention. First one is to share information that the gender wage gap in Macedonia is 70%, 17, meaning that men and women working on equal position, the men get 70% more. But the problem is legislation says that we should get equal pay for equal work, but in general, the real thing is to get equal pay for work of equal value. meaning we undervalue typical occupations or typical, work that is occupied by females, like nurses, like teachers, and so on. So we undervalue their work. Second thing is that stereotypes or gender differences here are promoted from the early age. Like seventh-year school graders will get a mandatory reading, which is called Girlfriends of Marco. And, are there boyfriends of? No. So it's all about girlfriends and so on. Third thing that actually I wanted to share with you is that, I guess I forgot my third thing. No, I'm just kidding. So what I wanted to say is to congratulate to all of you panelists, but specifically to the chair of the panel, Aleksandra. You really did a great homework, which was not present, apologies to all other chairs, but it was not present in the previous chairs or their panels. So you really thoroughly focused on your role today, and I think that is also what differentiates women, and that is what you all mentioned previously. But congratulations, really, Aleksandra.
Thank you. I mean, I guess I was supposed to do that because I'm a girl, you remember? I'm a nerd, as my son says. He should not be a nerd, he's not a girl. But yes, the statistics, I think, mainly are due to the fact that women are much more engaged around the family, about the children, and about taking care of the elderly people, and they're much more prone to be absent from work, and that is the main reason why men and women are not equally paid for the same position. So what I was saying before, the more equal family and balanced relationship in a family would actually provide for decreasing the gap, the pay gap on equal positions.
We have firstly, can I say I was deeply impressed by the questions and the responses. I've been to a few events like this in the West, and this was a bit more no holds barred, which was very refreshing to hear. We have a software and data analysis company where we have tried to recruit and promote purely based on competence, and the gender ratio comes out about 50-50, which I guess is what you would hope for in any industry. We have a unique opportunity because of the type of work we do, and because we have to collaborate with international teams anyway, which means you will always be in a situation where people are not together. The team is currently mostly too young to be starting families, but if what I see going on in the lunchroom is any judgment, we're going to have some soon. When people start having children, it's very easy for us to provide work from home, but my biggest concern is if there is too much being at home and not being involved with the others, especially if you're in a team that is to work together, you're going to have a loss in communication, certainly. I guess my question is mostly for Anna, but generally, what is the best way in the careers you've had and the times that you have been involved with your own family, has that been an impediment? How did you deal with the fact that you were not in front of your team all the time?
Yeah, please add, because I've been thinking about this a lot. I think I can at least help address the issue, if not answer the issue, but let's make sure we have a follow-up question here as well on the subject.
Hi, my name is Jana. I work for IBM, the Netherlands. Yep. I'm a project manager, technology and innovation, and I'm managing projects across 3 continents. So Europe, Asia, and US. Yep. And I have to disappoint the guy, the last one, who said that communication should not be an obstacle for delivery of results, because nowadays we live in a connected world. We have Skype, we have opportunity for conference calls, we have all the tools and technologies, so that's absolutely not an issue, should not be an issue. I work from home 3 days when it's needed. I go to the office only when I have appointments, presentations. I keep my team, and I coordinate the communication between the teams in 3 different regions. And that's absolutely...
And it works, look.
And it works perfectly good.
And I think there are certain industries that it works and certain it doesn't work. And
mostly because it's in IT, and we have the technology that supports the communication anytime, anywhere.
I just want to add to something, because I work in a little bit of a different industry, in service industry, in the people's industry. The people touch is still very important, because in my industry it's about the opinion. It's not about a program. And I think that in certain industries, let's say being in IT, where it's really about who's going to create the best new program and new software, et cetera, it might be a different characteristic. It might be different in medicine to a certain degree. It might be different in the world either of science or oil exploration, et cetera. But one thing that me as a manager, because I'm asked all the time, what are the criteria that people should be allowed for flexible work? And actually my company has very specific rules. We have scoring system for basically grades from 1 to 5, similar like in Macedonia, and only the employees who actually score 3.5 and higher are allowed to apply for any kind of flexible work arrangements. Look, there's nothing free in this world. Go back to my first points. You have to prove that you're competent, that you're trustworthy. Once you're proven that you're competent and trustworthy, i.e. you score above average score, which is 3.5, you can be eligible to apply for flexible work. Some works, like I have colleagues who work in the world of human resources, work 2 to 3 times a week from home. Same, my colleagues in IT technology who do support to our technology systems. But manager who manages sometimes and front office, meaning you're in client interactions, you're out there, you're speaking at conference, which is a lot about what my role is. Unfortunately, in those situations, one has to make a judgment that there is a limited ability of doing so, but doesn't mean that it can be prevented.
I wanted to say, first, there's one small thing I didn't like. Like, I don't like in general that we often say men's world and women's world. And it may sound naive because I'm still 21, I'm at faculty, and I'm still not facing the problems that, maybe the majority of you are facing, that you're already working. But I believe that as long as I see myself as an individual and not as a gender, as long as I see my profession as a profession and not as a men's or a woman's world, and as long as I strive to develop myself and to progress, there is not that man, not that force that is going to stop me from getting the position that I want. And I think that not many girls today share the same opinion with me. A lot of us not have enough confidence and feel insecure. And is there anything in particular that you would like to suggest in order to empower girls? So, for example, if it's changing the education, what should we exactly change in the education? Is it changing the books? Is it making, for example, workshop once a week to empower girls? What specific actions do we need to take? Because very often we say, yes, we need to empower girls, but how? With which specific actions do you think we can do today to change the situation?
I'd like to say that this is absolutely the most healthy and the most important attitude in order to achieve something in life. The thing here is that not everybody shares your attitude and your opinion, and what the world has to work on is actually to make sure that everybody more or less accepts that both men and women have to have equal rights, they have to have no restrictions whatsoever, have to have opportunity to be equally appointed at highest positions. So it's not only you, unfortunately, my dear, having this attitude, but it's the rest of the world and the rest of your peers sharing the same attitude. And how girls can be empowered, there are so many different measures. One of the measures is to, of course, increase the awareness of the problem. It took me 38 years and changing the country to understand that it's not only me who is important. I thought also myself that it was only me responsible for my successes, and nobody has ever been in position to anyhow downgrade me or stop me to achieve what I wanted. But it takes time to understand that the efforts that you have to pay for that are many, many times more than the efforts that are paid by others. And that's why we have to accept that the world can be a little bit more fair and should be a little bit more fair and should be a little bit more easy for women. And this is what we deserve and how it should be. I'm going to skip the closing lines. I'm going to end up just with two notions. One notion that I strongly believe in is that girls are leaders, girls inspire, and girls grow up to be women who can take on the world. And second one that I was today inspired to end up with, which comes from one of my role models when it comes to gender equality, and that's the Swedish Minister for Foreign Affairs, Ms. Margot Wallström. She says, if we want to achieve gender equality in this world, and she strongly fights for that, we have to make gender equality sexy. So, meaning it has to be appealing to everybody. It has to be something that people perceive it as cool, perceive it as sexy, perceive it as something they want to take part or be part of.